Hi and welcome back to the TeamCity Kotlin DSL series. In this episode you're going to learn how to build more complex build chains with the DSL. So instead of just having one build configuration, you're going to end up with 4 build configurations that can also run in parallel. Let's check it out. So let's go back to our project in the settings KTS file. Up till now you have a project with just one build type / build configuration. And what it essentially does is calling Maven clean test. And that's not what a real world build pipeline looks like. Let's think about having at least one step, maybe just compiling the Java sources, and then a step further down the build chain, packaging up your compiled sources into a WAR file, jar file, maybe even operating system dependent deployables and whatnot. So for now, just 2 build configurations. One compiles and one packages everything up. And for that, what you could simply do is say, let's have a new build type. You'll get a compile error because that, object doesn't yet exist. And for now, what I want you to do is just copy and paste the code. That's not the best and recommended way of doing it, but for now, we just take that as a start. So I'm just going to duplicate the code down here. Building. We'll call Maven clean compile. I'm just going to delete the custom step name here. And when I go down, I'm just going to rename that to package. It's also going to be called package in the UI. The step name, again, just deleting that here. The goal is going to be Maven clean package, right? And now I have essentially 2 build types / build configurations. Now, if you have used TeamCity before, you know that you now need to set up dependencies between these build types. More specifically, package needs a dependency on build. And in the UI, what you would do is you would open up the dependencies tab, which you can do in Kotlin DSL by just writing a dependencies block, and then have a snapshot dependency on the build step. That works. Now imagine you have 10, 15, 20 build configurations, and you don't want to mess with these dependencies manually. And we have Kotlin, a programming language. Isn't there some sort of a better way of doing that, specifying these dependencies? And yes, there is. So comment out the dependencies block. And what you want to do is go back up to your project, and you can call a method on the project, which is called Sequential, which basically sets up dependencies between different build types. So you need to put in these build types here as well. And what's going to happen is that as build is the first build type in the Sequentials block, it's not going to have a dependency on anything. But package is going to have a dependency on build. And if we had 10 more build configurations, they would all have dependencies on each other. Now, that's already enough. Just a quick double check. Let's see what else we could improve. There's one tiny last thing. Again, in TeamCity, if you have a build chain, you don't need VCS triggers on every single build configuration of the build chain. You only need them on the very last build configuration of the build chain. So you can choose to delete the VCS trigger here in your build type build. That's it. Let's commit the changes. Work in progress, commit and push. Right, it is going to take a second till everything gets pushed to the repository. The push succeeded. Let's go back to the UI and wait for a minute now till TeamCity fetches the new changes and refreshes the UI. Now that took a minute, but as you can see, TeamCity just fetched the changes. You now have 2 build configurations in the overview page. And if you open up the build chains page, you can actually see exactly what you wanted. You have the build configuration, which is running now, and you have the package configuration afterwards. Exactly what you wanted. Now let's make things a bit more complex because between builds and packaging, usually there's some tests running. And what we have, which is quite nice, we already have tests in our project. Remember, we have the integration tests, we have the unit tests. Integration tests are slower, take more time. Unit tests are faster. And it would make sense to actually run these tests in parallel. So we'd need 2 more build configurations, one for fast tests, one for slow tests. Let's try it out. Up here, what you would do is, let's start with fast tests. So you're going to have a build type registered on the project called fast test. Again, just duplicate the code. So instead of don't repeat yourself, do repeat yourself. For now, let's call it fast test in the UI, fast test, right? You're going to call Maven clean test. And there's a way in Maven you can specify which tests from which packages to run with a runner argument. So you're just going to go like everything inside a unit package which ends with test. So every class, please run it. Right, which would just run your unit tests down here. That's basically all you need here. And then let's duplicate this once more into slow tests. So you're just going to go slow, slow, and here the package is called integration. So you have 2 more build types. Again, you would want to register the slow test up here. And now you have them registered on the project. You don't have a build chain set up yet, so you could simply copy and paste these 2 build types into the Sequentials block. Now what's going to happen is that fast test has a dependency on build, slow test on fast test, package on slow test, so you have a sequential build chain. But you want to run these build configurations in parallel. And that's rather easy because on the Sequentials block, you can also call a new method which is called parallel. So you just copy and paste, or cut and paste rather, these build configurations in here. Now how do you read this? Build type doesn't have a dependency on anything else. The parallel block has a dependency on the build type. So fast test and slow test each have a dependency on build. Package has 2 dependencies on fast test and slow test, so on every build type inside the parallel block. And what's inside the parallel block can run in parallel. That's all you need to do. So let's commit the changes again. Commit and push. Right. Changes are pushed. Let's go back to the TeamCity server and again wait for another minute. Now it took a second for TeamCity to update, but in the overview page, on the overview page, you can already see you have these 4 build configurations. Fast test, there's 1 test passed. Slow test, there's 1 test passed. The build is running, package is running. And again, for better visualization, you would go to the build chains page. And on here you can see the build is running. Then you have 2 steps, fast test, slow test. And then at last you have the package build configuration. Do note that these 2 configurations only run in parallel if you have 2 build agents. We only have 1 build agent, which means that fast test is running now, even though slow test could be running in parallel. But we have no more build agents, so the same build agent has to first finish fast tests, then slow tests, and then the package stage. But apart from that, this is what usually a real-world build pipeline looks like, even if it's a bit simplified. Right. Going back, just to sum up what we did, we had a look at how to set up dependencies, snapshot dependencies between different build types in our project with the Sequentials method, the parallel method, but we duplicated a fair amount of code. And in the next episode, we're going to have a look at how we can refactor this code to get rid of all the duplication and make our settings KTS file look a lot better. So, see you next time.